Social control theories don't ask why people commit crime. They flip the question and ask, why don't more of us commit crime given the chance? So think about it. If you could steal a new iPhone and knew you'd never get caught, wouldn't you be tempted? Control theorists argue that the reason most of us don't do it isn't because we lack temptation. It's because we have restraints such as bonds to family, school, community, and these bonds keep us in check. The question isn't why people break the law, but why most people follow the law. Today, we're going to look at 4 theories: Matza's drift theory, Hirschi's social bond theory, Gottfredson and Hirschi's low self-control theory, and finally, the labeling theory. Each one of these adds a piece of the puzzle about why people sometimes give in to temptation and why other times they stay on track. So, Matza said that crime is often a phase. So think about the teenage years. You tested your curfew. Your parents loosened the reins. Peer influence grew. And it's during these gaps in control that young people may drift in and out of delinquency. So picture a teenager sneaking out to vandalize one night, and then the next day he's showing up to church with his grandma. That's drifting. That teenager isn't a career criminal, but he may float between conventional and deviant behavior. Matza also challenged the idea that everyone in a poor neighborhood would commit crime, or that poverty automatically equals delinquency. He said it was more complicated. People drift, and then eventually mature out of crime. Did you know anyone in high school who went through a wild phase but eventually straightened out? That's drift theory in action. Matza also described neutralization techniques. Think of these techniques as the mental gymnastics people use to excuse their behavior. Number 1, denial of responsibility. It wasn't me, my friends pressured me. So you're thinking of a teen blaming their crew after shoplifting. Number 2, denial of injury. Nobody got hurt. A hacker stealing digital music might say, it's just files. Number 3, denial of a victim. Either they had it coming or there wasn't a victim. It was a victimless crime. These are like vigilante style reasonings. Number 4, condemnation of condemners. The cops are just as bad. So this is where people are like deflecting blame. Number 5, appeal to higher loyalties. I had to do it for my friends. I had to do it for my family. So these rationalizations make it easier for people to commit crime without fully seeing themselves as criminals. So we're going to talk about the social bonding theory by Travis Hirschi next. So Hirschi took a bold stance. He said, we don't need special motives for crimes. We're all selfish and we're all capable of crime. But what stops us from committing crime is our bonds to society. So imagine a student with a strong attachment to family. The student's invested in school. He's playing sports. He believes in social rules. So that student has too much to lose by getting arrested. But what happens if these bonds weaken? If that same student has no family support, no school investment, no beliefs and rules, then the path to delinquency opens up. So this theory basically says it's not about why people commit crime, it's about why they don't commit crime. So there's 4 elements of social bonds, and Hirschi broke these down, and the first one is attachment. So think of a teen who doesn't want to disappoint their mom or coach. So emotional closeness keeps that teen in line. Number 2, commitment. Here's an example. College student often avoid crime because they're invested in a career path. Maybe like you're invested in a career path, so you're not going to risk your career in criminal justice by getting involved in crime. Number 3 is involvement. If you're working, studying, playing sports, you don't have time to steal cars. And number 4 would be beliefs. Do you respect the rules of society, or do you see them as optional? Hirschi said the most powerful bond is attachment to family and school. And so when those break down, delinquency skyrockets. The next theory we're going to discuss is the low self-control theory. So later on, Hirschi, with another dude, Gottfredson, turned to self-control. And they argued it's not just external bonds, it's an internal trait. So picture 2 kids in a candy store. One waits to pay. The other one grabs candy and runs. The difference between these two is that self-control that this theory addresses. So people with low self-control seek immediate gratification. They're risk takers. They lack patience. And most often they act self-centered. Crime for them is just the easiest path to get what they want. Low self-control isn't just about crime. It shows up in impulsive decisions, addictions, even, reckless driving could be considered low self-control. Okay, so the labeling theory, Tannenbaum introduced labeling theory, and this is the idea that crime isn't only about what you do, but what society calls you. So a famous case, 1989 Central Park 5 case. 5 teens of color were labeled as rapists by police and media. And despite weak evidence, and later, even after they were exonerated, that label of rapists defined their lives. So labeling can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're constantly treated as a criminal, you may eventually embrace that role. Police, judges, teachers, neighbors, parents even, they can all act as labelers, and labelers shape identities. So when you think about your own life, how powerful is a label in your own life? Has being called something, either good or bad, ever influenced how you saw yourself? So let me pull all of these theories together with one picture. So imagine a teenager, we'll call her Maya. She's 16 years old. She's living in a tough neighborhood, and like every teen, she wants freedom, respect, fun. So some nights Maya drifts into trouble. Her friends convince her to skip school or shoplift, and she goes along with that. That's Matza's drift theory. But then she remembers her mom, who works 2 jobs and believes deeply in her daughter's future. And that bond tugs her back toward the right path. So that's Hirschi's social bonding theory. Still, Maya can be impulsive. She craves quick thrills like speeding in a car, sneaking into concerts. And that would be the low self-control theory in action. And then when the school calls her a problem kid, she starts to believe it. And that's labeling theory. The danger of turning an identity into destiny. Maya isn't unique. She's every teenager, every human, really. We're all pulled between temptation and restraint, drifting in and out of risk. We're all influenced by bonds, impulses, and the way the world labels us. So when we ask, why don't more people commit crime? The answer is complicated, and it's a mix of these forces working together. The real lesson here, crime prevention isn't just about police and punishment. It's about strengthening bonds, teaching self-control, and being mindful of the labels we slap on people, because those labels can stick harder than we realize. All right. I hope this lecture was helpful in remembering and understanding social control theories.